Hello everybody, it's Ghoul Pony, and today I'm going to be discussing the first issue that we have gotten of the new Monster High IDW comic series. This is the Free Comic Book Day issue released on May 4th, 2024. We have a lot to talk about. I want to preface this with saying that while I do have a lot of questions after reading this issue, I do not necessarily mean them negatively. I'm sure that once we get more of the story, everything will fall into place, so I'm withholding my full judgment until we know more. After all, this is a mystery, as noted by the author in her comment about the series. This will also contain spoilers. If you'd like to avoid them, click off now and feel free to come back once you've read the issue. And with all that being said, let's get into it. The first thing that we get in this issue, aside from the cover, is a letter from my girl, Headless Headmistress Bloodgood. In this letter, the students are welcomed to a new scaremester and notified that the school board has decided that the monster clause must be more strictly enforced. The most pressing of these laws, she says, is that no normies are allowed. Interacting with, and especially dating normies, is now also banned. I will be so real, my initial reaction to this was, what? Because to me, this does not sound like Bloodgood, but I'm not saying that as a slight to the character writing, as I feel like something fishy is going on here. That someone else is forcing her to do this. I have multiple reasons for this theory, even outside of this being so unlike her, which I'll discuss a little bit later. After this letter, we're thrown straight into a scene of Frankie getting an espresso for her father, who it seems has been massively occupied with a project he's been working on. She tries to get him to go to the mall with her, but he insists on doing his work, and their conversation is interrupted by Frankie getting a phone call from Cleo. Cleo is seemingly upset about something Claudine did, which Frankie insists Claudine wouldn't do. Then she gets a call from Claudine, who is upset at Cleo. Frankie suggests that Claudine should ask Cleo what's going on, and admits that she hasn't heard from Draculaura in a while either. She mentions that last year was really hard on the vampire. In the next spread, we see Frankie's father continuing to work on his project, but as soon as he's figured it out, his notes seem to have disappeared. Suddenly, a hooded figure is in his room, holding his papers. They threaten him with them, and state that they'll be working together soon. This hooded figure looks like the ones that we see in Bloodgood's office in the issue 1 preview. We don't have the dialogue in this spread, but based on the art and what we know from this new issue, it seems increasingly likely to me that they're threatening her. Potentially over Hezekiah? This ties into what I said earlier about there being something fishy about that letter from the beginning. We don't have a ton of context yet, but based on what we do have, I believe that Bloodgood is being blackmailed into enforcing these rules. The question is, by whom? The fact that we see Hezekiah and Bloodgood's relationship present in that preview is another reason why I'm thinking that she's being manipulated, rather than that they're changing her character. She would be pretty hypocritical for stating that there can be no romance between monsters and normies, ever, when she's quite literally in love with someone who is half human. In the very last scene, Frankie is still on the phone, telling Claudine that she'll talk to Cleo and that all of the friend group will be together soon. After the comic, we get some character bios for the main 4 ghouls. There's a couple interesting details in these, including Frankie only mentions her father, never her mother, and she notes that Meality and Persephone are especially annoyed by her inquisitive nature. Draculaura notes that last year really took a toll on her, and that since then she's been sitting through meetings and that she had to drink blood. Claudine says that her parents have been acting distant lately, and so has her girlfriend, Torlai. Cleo discusses how she's become bored with her and Deuce's relationship, lamenting about how Nephra is constantly pursued by suitors from all over the world, and even other dimensions. Claudine's mentions about how her parents have been distant makes me wonder if that also has something to do with these mysterious hooded figures. So far, they've intercepted Mr. Stein and Miss Bloodgood, so perhaps they're going after all of the adults for whatever reason. Maybe this is also the reason why Mrs. Stein isn't mentioned? There's also an interview with the author, Jackie I, in which she mentions that the series is a monstrous mystery, which also seems to indicate that we'll understand more as the series goes on. One thing that I am slightly confused about is what continuity this is supposed to take place in. When asked if fans need to know anything about Monster High before reading the comics, Jackie I states, "I'd say no, but it would be helpful. Watch the G1 animated webisodes, read the upcoming novel, and buy a few dolls for your collection." The mention of the upcoming YA novel, Once Bitten Twice Dead, along with the comics discussion of last year being really hard on Draculaura, makes me wonder if these comics take place in that continuity. But that book doesn't seem to fit into the G1 canon at all. These comics will also have multiple references to the G1 diary continuity. We know that Spalding Calderello is going to be in them, and they acknowledge Bloodgood and Hezekiah's relationship, and both of those are things that are only in the diaries. There's clearly a lot that has happened before this issue that we don't know about. This is another reason why at this moment it's difficult to tell when and in which continuity these are taking place. It's also possible that these are just their own continuity. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Hi, editing pony here. So the author did a little promo video for the series on Monster High's Instagram page, and she does mention that it is the original story, which does make it sound like it takes place in the main G1 continuity. So that's what we have for now. On the whole, I'm intrigued, excited, and maybe the slightest bit nervous to see what happens next. The end of the comic has a release schedule for the upcoming issues, which looks like this. We don't have to wait long for the next one, as the Pride issue is releasing soon. After that, the schedule shows that we're getting even more issues than we were previously told, including multiple holiday ones. For 2024, we have a Halloween and Snowball issue in the winter. Then, for 2025, there is a spring break issue and a fear book before a summer break and another scaremester. And that's about all that we get for this issue. I'm very curious to see where things go from here, and I hope that you are too. I'm hoping to kind of cover the comics as they release, but we'll see how that goes. But anyway, I hope you all have a fantastic evening, and see you soon!